Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I've done a couple videos on Fantastic Four related matters recently, and it's got people thinking about the Fantastic Four. So here's an email coming in saying, "Hey Perch, I love your channel. Why do you think? What? Sorry, let me start over again. What do you think it is about the Fantastic Four that so many people seem to get wrong nowadays? It's not just the Fantastic Four, but we're going to get there. With the MCU version on its way soon, I have zero faith in them to actually do the property justice, despite how the more diehard fans might feel. Personally, I feel like the key to getting the F4 right is to get Reed Richards right, since he is essentially the main character. But as proven by the previous cinematic entries and many of the modern comic portrayals, no one has been able to do that, and quite frankly, I don't trust that there's any Hollywood screenwriter now who can. So what do you think it is about them? Is it that they're too dated or too corny? Have we just lost our spirit of adventure into culture and they're less relevant? Because lately it's been feeling like there's no place left in Marvel for its first family, which is beyond sad. That is sad. So here's my theory on what's going on. So I think, like many things, there's a number of factors and they all kind of stack up. So one of the factors is and this isn't the biggest one, but it's the one that's worth starting with because I believe this is the version we're going to get in the MCU. So this is a victim of your own success kind of situation. So Jonathan Hickman came in, and he had this celebrated run on Fantastic Four, and then Avengers and Secret Wars, and it was Secret Wars was like a Fantastic Four event without being called Fantastic Four. But one of the things he did is he slightly tilted Reed Richards, or maybe not so slightly, to be a little bit more grim, a little bit more. He leaned into the kind of one aspect of his personality, the cold clinical part. It was the Council of Reeds, and ultimately he decided to, stay with his family rather than join the council, and that was meant to kind of infer that, hey, he's a family guy. This is how our Reed is different. But it also, I mean, there was also he was tempted by it, and they leaned into that temptation. And then as we got to things like Secret Wars and some of the other elements, with his time on the Secret Avengers, the time on the Illuminati, when he was doing this stuff, it was Reed kind of in some ways, the cold, calculating guy who, he lost some of the family aspect, which is weird because a lot of people point out that Hickman's run did highlight the family, and it did, but it turned Reed was slightly different, and I guess hopefully more of you know, or you get what I'm saying. I'm curious in the comments if you do or not. Not saying the Hickman run was bad; it was good. But Reed Richards tilted a little bit from being kind of a family spirit of adventurer guy to being more of a cold scientist guy. Still cared about his family, but it was a different type of care. It was just, and many people have called that a more modern take and everything else. I'm very confident that's what Reed Richards are going to get in the MCU. Somebody who's a scientist. I feel like we're going to get trailers. Ultimately, if they do several movies where it's like, if Reed wanted to destroy the universe, he could, and you get like a close of him looking grim and kind of frowning like this, and it's like it goes. We're going to get them playing into this aspect of, he's the world's smartest man, but he's also could be the world's dangerous, and they're gonna have that aspect to him. I think that's some of what's going on is the comics view that as a modern portrayal of Reed and the Reed that we need, but unfortunately, in my view, the only reason that Hickman's version of Reed kind of worked and why it clicked and why people appreciated it as opposed to being kind of a one-dimensional kind of robotic science monster is because you had 50 years previous to that of Reed Richards being kind of, in that spirit of adventure family man. Now, again, this is very subtle differences. Reed had always had that, caring about science over the cost of his family. Sometimes they would do these little bits where Reed's like working in a lab and Sue's like trying to, tempt him up to the bedroom, and Reed's like, just a minute, Sue, I'm working on the flux capacitor over here. And she's like, he'll be lost in that for days. And then I'm going to go out shopping. And that was, that's kind of the 70s right there, 67. We had a lot of that. And then the Byrne run was a little bit of the Reed as he kind of, basically narrating some of what was going on, like, oh, we got this science incursion over here. Come on, guys. And he's like one step ahead, and the family is kind of, in some cases, trailing along behind. And that's how Byrne was able to do the Malice storyline so successfully. But in general, Reed was a complex character who, formed this family, both real family with Sue and Franklin, and then Valeria later, and then the virtual family with Johnny and Ben, or the extended family, I guess I should say. But he also had feelings of real guilt toward Ben because he felt responsible for his problems. So that created a dynamic between the two of them. He was very tempted by science, but his family gave him his humanity. So rather than being, the focus being being tempted away from my family because of the science, instead it was my family grounds me and it helps me, find the emotion and the joy in the adventure. And that was what that's what got the Fantastic Four right. And that is very hard. I mean, first of all, then we get to the comics and the movies today. The movies are 2 hour little snips of somebody's life, so they have to kind of nail some basic personality traits fast. And that's where you're going to get the Hickman version of Reed. The more, he's super smart, he can do anything, but that can be, amazing and terrifying. Like I could just see the trailer now. So that's what that's going to go with. The comics, on the other hand, have that problem of, well, Hickman's version is successful, so we have to kind of stay with that. But also, as you identified it, comic writers today view that as corny. The idea of a family that goes off on adventures, they view that as cheesy, as old school, as hey, it's just, they don't view it as anything interesting. And it falls victim to that same old approach of, if I'm not changing the character, if I'm not radically shifting what's going on here, then I'm not a real creator. So I can't just do the same things. I can't go out on stage and play, greatest hits. I have to form something new, and I'm going to form something new by stunt scaring the audience or stunt shocking the audience by doing something different, subverting expectations. A lot of this entire subvert expectations, by the way, is nothing more than kind of the writing equivalent of a jump scare. It's leading the audience down one path, like, this is the path you expect. Oh, surprise! Surprise! He's got a third arm. That usually means his dick, but anyway, yeah, I guess leg. Like, well, it depends on what kind of man you are, huh? Yeah. Anyway, that's the problem with a lot of this. A lot of the writing is that it's designed to use kind of cheap effects, like horror movies use the jump scare, where it's like suddenly we'll pump the music up and we'll have somebody jump out behind the corner, and everybody gets a little shock because they're not expecting that change, and it's cheap. It's a way to make you feel like you're engaged in the movie and you're jumping around. They've proven that even if you're not paying attention to a movie at all and you're just kind of reading a book, but if suddenly the speakers blast a bunch of noise, you're going to jump because one of your senses is suddenly being jarred. That's what subverting expectations is like, and that's what the writing of Reed is like. Nobody wants to just have the family go out and have adventures. I don't like the current Fantastic Four run at all. I just it's just there's no heart or passion in it. In many ways, it feels like it's because it's Dan Slott. It feels like Dan Slott's Iron Man run as well. There feels like there's very little heart and passion. At the very least, for the Spider-Man run, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it, the earliest parts and the Superior Spider-Man arc was at least something new, and there was a trial of will Doc Ock ultimately kind of steer toward good, or what's going to go on there. Like, there were elements of that were at least felt like there was some passion or some emotion in the writing. Later on, when it was like Peter Parker, the tech mogul, and some of that kind of stuff, it fell apart. But the Fantastic Four, and as I said at the beginning, it's not just Fantastic Four. Any character that has that kind of spirit adventure, kind of either family values or American values or that kind of stuff, the companies struggle with a lot. Captain America is another one. I think Captain America's arc in the MCU wound up being pretty much, as good as it could be. I think had Captain America continued, we would have seen the storylines that we're kind of getting with Sam now applied to Steve, which is like I don't know, can I trust our country? I don't know, probably not. America, what is it? Is America really that great? Maybe it's not. Why do I wear an American flag on my chest when it stands for bigotry? You would have gotten into all that crap, like the comics do, because the comics can't have the, Mark Grunwald cap and the spirit of adventure stuff, just like the Fantastic Four can. Any character that leans into those kinds of values, the writers are having a hell of a time doing it. No, I don't believe it's because they're all secretly socialist. I just think it's that need to do something different. When Donny Cates comes onto the Hulk, it's like, well, I can't have him just wandering around the desert. I need to. What's the big concept pitch? What's something we haven't seen before? What's something new where I could leave my mark? And so you get the Starship Hulk and all the rest. And that if you're good at your stunt or your pitch, that can work out. If you deliver one that isn't just jarring but actually has some meat behind it, it can function. It can be worthwhile. But if all you have is the pitch, then that gets old really quickly, and it doesn't work. I think that if you look at, using Donny Cates as the example, he wanted to do a different run on Venom and bring in Null and kind of this bigger mythology of the symbiotes and all that kind of stuff. This is the big concept pitch. But to his defense and to his credit, Donny Cates spent some time, making sure that Eddie Brock had a personality and that there was elements of him that he went through his struggle of what it means to evolve to that next stage of life for Eddie. And so as a result, it worked because there was more than just the big pitch. There was a heart to the character as well. And in a lot of cases, these big concepts, these big pitches that you see in stories, they forget about the heart. They forget about the fact that these characters need to live up to kind of whatever ideals or spirit that they had at the beginning. But anyway, it's a tough balance. But there you go. Thank you very much for the mail. And keep writing always. Email's in the description, so anyone can write me, yell at me, whatever you feel like. And thanks for listening.